probably not going to use the full class day. All right, so it is September the 18th, and we're going to talk about demand. And so if you'll recall, I believe we left off last time talking about the law of demand, which is not this, because this is Cyril and Methodius. So in case you remember your 10th grade stuff, which I bet you do. What? All right. So we left off talking about different curves. So remember we were talking about there is a direct influence between the price of a commodity and its demand. So if the price goes down, people want to buy, are more likely to buy something. Duh. If the price goes up, you're less likely to buy something. I think we all realize that, especially if you're going up, get that dollar menu. All right. So if you remember, there's a factor in this called elasticity. Several different factors can affect the elasticity of demand for a certain good. So this has to do with availability of substitutes. So a substitute can be something that can do the same thing you're willing to go with, right? Your favorite shampoo isn't there, so you get that other one that you're okay with, right? Can be the same thing for like food. It's usually consumable commodities. Now, there are some things, however, you might not want to have a substitute for, and that's fine.
Like food.
Okay, yeah, it's like if you're a picky eater and you're like, I only want to eat spicy chicken tenders.
No, I was joking. I'm like substituting food for like crabs or something.
True. I mean.
Okay. Well, some people do that. I don't know. Okay, so availability of substitutes. If there are a few substitutes for a good, the demand will not likely decrease as price increases. This was the case with the first, like with the first couple of iPhones, right? There wasn't like anything on the market that could compete. So if you couldn't get one, and if the price went up, that was too bad. So sad. I'm trying to think of something that's like that right now. Is there something you can think of, like there's only one version of?
PlayStation. Pizza cheese.
Tesla. Well, there's other electric cars, aren't they?
Technically, Hyundai's trying to make some. Toyota, I think, is not as big as.
Tesla's like the only one that's like.
I think 41 right.
Like I see them every now and again. I don't know anything about them. I know they're supposed to be bad. Yeah.
Miss Joyner, isn't gas like a bad example because there's like different gas stations, just like how there's different restaurants?
I think you're right, but I think they're just talking about gasoline in general, right?
Well,
if there's a gas shortage.
Talk about food in general. If there's a food shortage.
Yeah, food in general, yeah. So
then how is McDonald's a good example, but gasoline?
I think they're saying, like, let's say that McDonald's is shut down, right? They found like rats in the fryer or something like that. and then okay, I'll go to Burger King instead.
Okay,
but if there's a national gasoline shortage, like there has been before.
Shortage? Now, what if your local Exxon closed because they found a rat in the gas?
Yeah.
Then
Okay.
you would go to the Valero.
Yeah, you can. That's true. That's true. But I think the reason they brought this up is that if the commodity in general is out, kind of like we've seen this before in the past.
I mean, if food in general is that everyone dies, that's pretty.
That's true. But for all food in general to be low in the United States, that's not kind of like a common thing. Whereas gasoline shortages can be a thing, like around hurricane season, right? In some places, you'll have gas stations run out.
I mean, also like someone could like a Burger King burger over a McDonald's burgers, but you can't really like one type of gas over the other.
Yeah, there's like once or twice a year, I'm like, I feel like having Burger King because I forgot what it tastes like.
Yeah, like that Valero gas is nasty.
Oh yeah.
Valero gas is different.
I don't know about
So, all right, back to this. So for good, the demand will not likely decrease as price increases. So it's inelastic. So that means if there's less of it, the prices, the demands can be the same. The opposite, if there's lots of substitutes, kind of like, let's face it, there's some things you probably just don't care what kind you have. Like I don't know, like the stuff you might like mop your floor with at home. You're like, oh, whatever, it's all lemon scented, So you don't really care.
Care about quality of paper.
Yeah, exactly. Like notebook paper. I mean, sure, there's some that are a little special, but for the most part, it's just
I
notebook.
like it to be uniform, so I've been buying the same type of paper. So
Whoa.
that way all the paper in the binder is.
You're a true paper fan. All right. So, yeah, they had their examples. All right. So they're not perfect examples for all of you, but I mean, it's true for certain things. Like I think like the old iPhone thing. That's a good one. All right. So factors affecting elasticity. I don't know the difference between affect and effect really. I don't know. One's got an A, one's got an E.
I think effect means like doing an active, I'm affecting Noah. But an effect is like passive thing.
Cause and
He's
effect.
being affected by Joey. Joey is affecting him.
Let's
I think effect is more of a conscious, whereas effect is more like
Wait, so
Which effect though?
so you are affecting
affect. Sorry, I know it in my brain.
Yeah, I know. Like if your affect is off, like I sent him to the office because his affect was off. It turns out his blood sugar was low. It'd be like that. But that's a good
Dude, I'm so confused.
forget it. We're all gonna have to start speaking Latin. All right. So, all right. So, continued. Relative importance. Another factor determining the elasticity of demand is how much of your budget you spend on a good. So, your mortgage payment must be paid. That's inelastic. You got to pay it even if the price goes up a little. Entertainment like movies are elastic. All right. Like besides subscription services, like if you're going to do a rental or go to the movies, sometimes the price gets raised and you might be like, forget it. Instead of watching the movie, I'm going to go play putt-putt by myself today. People do that, right?
There's just a word.
No, I've never done it.
Affect. That's a verb. Effect is affect. Is a noun.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay.
Sorry, that's what I was.
Why would-
that would have been the natural progression of my calculus.
Why would we make the English language like this? And why are there two F's? Does it make it more puffy or something like that? Why can't one F be there? That's the English spelling is so irritating sometimes.
It's just a big old scoop is what it is.
Yeah.
I use big words.
I haven't heard that one.
That's a big word. You get the second grade science award of the day. All right. Moving on. More factors affecting elasticity, necessities versus luxuries. This is related to the last one. Whether a person considers a good to be a necessity or luxury. There are certain things you need. Like you might need, going back to blood sugar, insulin to live. Like you can't just skimp out on it this week and hope for the best. You might need that to survive to see the next day. Or luxury has a great impact on goods elasticity. So, yeah, food, you got to get that food. So if there's a national food shortage, you're probably going to sell a few things to make sure you live through the week and have calories. Whereas fancy jewelry, if you want your blingy bling and your pretty gold teeth and all that stuff, you might be willing to forego that if it's too expensive. So.
Yo, great.
Huh?
I'm the imposter. Dang it, you figured me out. We're actually playing
Oh
Among
no,
Us,
Aaron's acting pretty sus.
but in real life. So first there's a
Yeah,
battle
Aaron,
royale.
you kind of sus today, bro.
I'm sus.
Yeah, you're right. I was
just- Why? Oh.
I don't think so.
No, it's actually
All right.
Among Us.
So, moving right along.
It doesn't.
Other factors continue. So change over time. Demand sometimes becomes more elastic over time because people can eventually find substitutes. So Blockbuster video used to be a thing. You would go rent your VHS or eventually your DVD and watch a movie, right? Yeah, people did that. Now you got the Netflix and you got Beyond Man, pay-per-view, Amazon, Hulu, Buster. Wow. Do you also keep tooth powder around in case you gotta get rid of your halitosis?
You have a blockbuster card?
You don't know?
Wow.
No,
I stay straight.
I'll pay you for that.
no, I got rid of mine. Let's get rid of my Nokia
You can't get rid of those things.
blockbuster card is still
Isn't that
Sorry, can I keep this?
okay? That's right. So you just keep that to show people.
Yeah.
You get pulled over and you show the officer.
Yeah, license and registration, I'm old enough.
Okay.
No, that's
Okay. Got it. Well, don't forget to bribe them with Chuck E. Cheese tokens too. Make sure it's real smooth that way.
Do it on reverse? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
No.
But we're about to have lunch.
You know
I tell you what, when we're done with economics, yeah, sure, but not yet because it's kind of I know. All right, so moving right along, kids. So we can also have changes in demand. A demand curve is only accurate as long as there are no changes other than the price. We know that there are other things that can affect demand. Demand can be affected by things such as regulation. You can also have things that can, like, for example, like ration cards in World War II, right? So people might want a lot of things, but they're not allowed to buy a lot of things. You can also have, yes, sir.
How influential is the stock market on that?
On demand? Well, I can't say that I can think of any influence. Like I could think of the stock market being influenced by demand. Like once you start seeing through like market research that people are wanting more of a certain commodity, then the stock prices for those companies or the innovators could go up, right? But if the stocks move around, would more people start buying the commodity? I'm not sure if there's a relationship in the reverse, right? Kind of like we were just talking about Tesla, right? Like Tesla stocks just increased in value a lot recently, but I'm not sure if that in any way affects people's desire to buy the car. Like, whoa, Tesla stocks are high, I'm going to buy a car. I don't know if it quite works.
Wouldn't that also go under like branding?
It can, because branding can go with demand, right? Like let's say that's one of the reasons why products will pay movies to have their car in it, right? Like the James Bond movies, like they're always like, please let us have James Bond drive our car or shoot our pistol or something like that, or wear our watch, because then people want to buy them. Yeah, or the underwear, right? Yeah. So I'm not sure how like stocks, because stocks are usually affected more like by things like projections on how something's going to do in the market. Like they're trying to perceive demand to see if the company's going to do better. If a company is showing it's going to have good leadership, a good new idea that's looking promising, then the stock price, then the value of that company is estimated to be higher, so its shares grow in its value. But I mean, like, I don't think that the shares influence the demand.
How many slides
Because-
is this?
A few,
Okay.
like it's all on Google Classroom. All right.
I know that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking going through a classroom right now.
Okay. So only accurate as long as there is no changes other than the price that could affect the consumer's decision. When factors other than price, like non-price factors, affect the demand curve, the entire curve shifts to the left or the right. So we're talking about like, let's say like, if there's less goods that make something, like if you start having a supply problem, or like I said, if there's restrictions on how much people can buy of something, such as government controls and stuff, it'll just shift it all the way around, because even if there's more demand, people simply cannot get more of something.
I have a question. So what if demand is high, but some people are, like, let's say about 50% of people are buying it just not out of principle, due to, like, let's say it's a game, but the game has not changed forever, so a lot of people aren't going to buy it, even though there's a lot of people that want demand.
You mean people are hoarding? They're kind of like buying it out of the market, just take it off the market.
I mean, like, they want it. It has a high demand, and the price is good. Nobody buys it.
Well, if the demand was truly that high, people would buy it. What that would mean is that the price is so high, even if the price seems good, it's too high for people to pull the trigger on it, right? So that means if you lower the price, maybe more of those people who like it would get it. Because demand doesn't mean you're cool with something or you like something. Demand means you're actually willing, you want to buy it as soon as you can. You will do it as soon as it's available.
The thing is, recently, the Super Mario franchise recently hit 35 years old, and they're adding 3 different games on one port. But the problem is the port has not changed at all. All of the graphics are the same exact. All the bugs are almost the same exact as the ones before. In other words, it's just a port. People are complaining, even though a lot of people are going to buy it. And a lot of people are like, $60 for this, outrage. And I went to Walmart this morning since I had a little bit of free time, and it was actually about $49.
What, the Super Mario?
Yeah, and they also limited, since they know, a lot of people know this is definitely going to get scalped.
Yeah.
Because it's like one of the most scalpable games.
Yeah, we got Mario as soon as it came out. I was 5.
Wait,
Like-
what is scalpable?
Means that, say there's like a really huge demand for it, and people will pay any price for it. And people go to stores and just buy out the entire lot and sell it online for like, let's say the game is $50, they sell for like $100.
Yeah. And so what you have there is, you have people profiteering off the demand. They're like, look, they know that people will pay more, so they're taking advantage of it. People do that with all kinds of things. People did that with toilet paper not that long ago. You know, they're like buying it and reselling it like on eBay and stuff, or Craigslist. You know, it's like get some of that back of the van toilet paper.
I remember the Germex scheme back in.
That's where regulation comes in, because hoarding regulations can start kicking in emergencies. You have this a lot, say like hurricane areas. When a hurricane's coming in, gas prices aren't supposed to skyrocket and start taking advantage of desperate people is the idea. And so they're supposed to keep the gas prices low. And of course, it gets bought up quickly. They're like, well, sorry, you can't just charge people $70 a gallon on gas or something like that. You know, just so they can get grandma.
I think it was Home Depot and Walmart. They got in huge trouble in Houston a few years back because they jacked up the prices of water to like, I think close to like $30 or so. Which is really expensive. It was insanely expensive just for bottled water.
Yeah.
And Walmart got in huge trouble.
I believe it.
And recently, there's these 2 brothers, they're stepbrothers, who are like, hey, we have an idea to make some money in these trying times. They're rubbing their hands really together as things fall out.
They were doing that? Did they have
Yes.
long mustaches?
Yes, they had the very long mustache.
Top hat.
They actually, whenever they heard that the COVID was coming around, they actually went to every single little convenience store and bought all the Germex.
I remember.
They had over 15,000 bottles. Now the thing was, they started selling immediately. eBay, Craigslist, Amazon shut down all their pages, and they weren't allowed to physically sell them because then the police would come knocking. In other words, they just had around 14,000 bottles of Germex just sitting in their garage, and they had to give it away.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like see, we're a mixed economy, so we have rules like that, right? There's supposed to be safety rules for consumers, and one of them is anti-hoarding laws. Well, that's a pretty normal thing for societies, because back in the Middle Ages and stuff like that, they had laws against hoarding grain, right? So if there was like a famine, people were supposed to not hoard their grain and then sell it for double price when everyone was starving, because they knew people would pay it. So it was common for kings and cities to have laws against that, where they still had to sell it at a low price. So, so that's a pretty common thing, like in times of need, right? Yeah. So, and that Germex, I mean, some people just gotta have it. Yeah, the Germex. All right. So back to this. These factors will cause demand curve to shift to left, right? We already talked about that. Moving on to the next one. Here we go, seeing it shift. So you see the original demand. However, let's say there's something like quantity control or price control. That's going to shift it over. And so like anti-hoarding, that could have like price control things. So let's see their example. Change demand. Recently, Farley High School changed boys hockey from a varsity sport to an intramural sport. What's intramural mean?
It's like JV.
JV? Oh, okay.
Intramural sports are like, they're not in a league, it's just like a club.
Oh, okay. I got you. As a result, they needed to buy fewer hockey pucks. The degree in demand is shown by a shifting demand curve. Yeah, so see, because of that, the cost is less, but also less people are wanting to go because they're
If you don't do varsity, you're not going to get into the same colleges you guys who do varsity.
All right, so change in income. As people earn more money, the demand for luxury goods increase. That's true. Countries where people in general make more money, they want more comfort items. Instead of just getting a burger, they get a cheeseburger. Right? So instead of getting a flip phone, they get a smartphone.
Such as Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, all these countries that during like whenever back in the 80s and 90s, whenever they had like a lot of money because of the oil.
Well, I mean, the citizens did. Most people in those countries aren't citizens. They're like dirt poor. Like, but yeah, the citizenry. If you're a citizen, you got like free checks, free cars, and everything like that.
Or like, you know,
So yeah, if you're like a citizen to say like Qatar, it's so oil rich that if you're born a citizen of it, you get a free apartment, free college education, free car every year, all this stuff, right? You don't have to work, you get free checks every month. But most of the people who live there aren't citizens. They're like foreign workers who come in to like sweep floors and stuff like that. Yeah. So as people earn less money, the demand for luxury goods decrease. This is a normal thing. So if I win the lottery, I buy a Jaguar. No, I'd buy probably a bulldozer. But if I get laid off, I'll take the bus. Yeah, so that's neat. Substitution effect. If there's a substitute product, demand for an item may be influenced by the price of the substitute. So, I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, especially if things are like the same, like yeah, like I mean, that's kind of how it was when I think like when Xbox first came out, right? PlayStation and Xbox were like almost the same price. And the only thing, they were competitors against each other, like going back to old video games.
Those pretty much are.
And still pretty much are, yeah. I mean, I haven't had a console in like 25 years.
The better example was like Sega Genesis versus Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
It was like super. That's a good example.
Yeah.
Because the Sega Genesis, I think it was like the core price was like $90, and the Super Nintendo was like
Yeah.
25 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how that was. Yeah, because, well, the thing is, yeah, like the Genesis was cheaper, but it had less hit titles.
Yeah.
Where it was like Super Nintendo had a lot more of the ones people wanted, but cost more.
Yeah.
So
Also, like the thing about that I researched was Genesis had more like sports and fighting games. And
That's
Super
true.
Nintendo had like platformers.
yeah, it went to different audiences too. So that's important because you find a niche. At least you know there's going to be a certain base that's going to keep buying your stuff. All right, so here's another one. Butter goes up. People will substitute with margarine, which, to each their own.
There's actually going to be two new consoles coming out this year: the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5.
I see.
Oh, it's this year.
I'm sure my brother's going to buy both of them.
The Xbox Series X is coming out this November. And the S.
He's going to buy one of them.
But the thing is, it looks like it looks like if you got an Amazon box, it paints it black, and then the PS5 looks like an air conditioner.
Okay. I believe you. I believe you.
They look very different, but they have pretty much the same graphics.
What is it that to do with that house?
He's talking about how they're the substitutes, right? Something like that.
They're usually, consoles are often called substitutes for actual like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you could do a lot of similar things. I mean, a lot of like, can't y'all do like web browsing, Netflix, and all that stuff on there?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So that's what a lot of people use PCs for. I mean, because like my TV is hooked up to my PC, so we do a lot of our stuff that we do on the TV is actually off my computer.
All my TV on my Xbox.
Okay.
I mean,
Complementary products. The demand for an item will increase or decrease if the price of a complementary product, something that goes with it, increases or decreases. One thing, a common one for this is like printers, right? And ink. So if the price of ink for a printer really goes down, people might buy more of those printers. If the price of that ink and say like paper goes up, people will buy less printers. Their example here is if the price of hot dogs goes up, the demand for hot dogs hot dogs go down, thereby decreasing the demand for hot dog buns. Yeah, so if hot dogs are too expensive, you're not buying hot dog buns as much. Unless you're just somebody who walks around with a bag of hot dog buns, like chomping them for breakfast, because you do that. So,
this is the most disgusting formation of candy.
well, that's one thing that's going on right now. Like there is a national shortage of ammunition, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we actually were going hunting and we're going firing. They had no 9mm.
Why are we
Yeah.
out of ammo?
because people are scared. They're scared of two things. People got really scared during the shutdown, and then people got really scared watching the news about rioting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and elections are coming up. There's always a big run to buy those things before elections because people get scared of bans and stuff like that. It happens every 4 years. So it's a pretty big one. Right? It's the biggest one ever right now. So it's not a buyer's market. I'll tell you that much. All right, change in attitude. So as people's attitudes change about products, so does demand. So that's just how it is. Like avocados became really trendy a few years ago. And so like people were buying avocados left and right. Bacon for a while there was super trendy. Gourmet coffee. But also like think about products like technology, right? Sometimes technologies become obsolete, so people buy less of them. Nobody buys 8-track players anymore.
You talking about movies?
You buy it, or is it inherit? Did you inherit it?
The only people who still use papers are gang members and cocaine dealers.
Oh yeah, VCRs, yeah, and that's what stinks about like these like old tapes is like those tapes don't last that long. I mean, that stuff starts falling apart eventually. Yeah.
The only people who still use pagers nowadays are gang members and drug dealers.
Well, sometimes people who are on call still have to use those things, right? Like for certain businesses. So there are still like ER doctors and surgeons.
I guess
We
they
get
are.
it.
I mean, like,
Because they don't want you using it for like phone calls and stuff. They're like, hey, it's only here for when you're on call. So how does scarcity affect demand? If there's scarcity of an item, the demand goes up. We just talked about that. How does a boycott affect demand? Well, nobody's buying it, so there's no demand.
you know, whenever I went to West Virginia this summer, the gas prices were about the same over there in West Virginia. You
That's
went
pretty
all the
cool.
way from East Texas to
Hey.
West Virginia.
Last one. How does the war in Afghanistan affect demand? Increase demand for war-related materials? Yeah. I mean, war industries make a lot of money off of war, in case you didn't know that. So,
Oh, really?
so increased demand for news as well. I'm sure there's been an increased demand for news lately as well. Anytime something crazy is happening, people go to the news more. Of course, the thing is, like network news, that's more like an older generation thing, like my generation. Younger folks usually just get snippets off of, you know,
Social media.
yeah. So,
Oh, my mom watches news every night. So
so annoying. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just a thing to do. I mean, it's pretty normal. I mean, like personally, I can't stand television, and I don't know. I can't like.
yeah, I don't like TV either.
Yeah, I don't like TV or movies.
Oh, me either.
All right, so that's the last of that one. We kind of went over longer than I thought we would, and this class is over at 12:30. Tell you what, instead of talking about boss G, I'm going to give you the rest of the period to use the study hall in case you got homework or something to do. But I saw that there's a sign-up sheet for teachers now to use high schoolers as like helpers and stuff like that. Like during your normal study hall period, if you're done with your work, you get to go help with kindergarten and stuff, you know, and kiss their boo boos. Yeah, and that sounds like a nice thing to do. That actually means a lot to little kids. When little kids are around like big kids, like high schoolers, like they think it's like the coolest thing in the world.
Yes. Not here.
I feel like it's joining around my fellow.
Is that me?
Yeah, but you're not.
It'll help you safe around the little ones. Well, you don't want it to be too weird when you're around little bitty kids, because I remember how I was after I hadn't been around little kids for like 15 years, and then I had to be around them again. It's like, what? So, all right, we're going to end our lecture for today, kids. See you back on Tuesday for our next unit. Bye-bye.